Motion to open the planning board meetings Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 7:03 PM.
So motion.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We are open and ready for business. So the first agenda for the day is a letter from the planning board for Bill Daly regarding the quarry fill project. And you want to read this?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm going to recuse myself because I'm a direct abutter.
Okay, so I see a letter that's dated August 15, 2022 from R&D Site Development, received Town of Groveland August 19th. And it's regarding the Sewell Street reclamation. The letter is information only to the board, no vote required, so I'd like to make for the record that we have received this packet from R&D Site Development.
Okay. Sunset Circle, resident concerns over fence placement. So I think, Annie, you want to discuss that one?
Sorry, Tony? Do you want to start off, or do you want me to give the board a bit?
I think we'll have Annie, as our town planner, just like address the board first. I said, we'll have Annie address the board to what the situation is with the fence, and then you'll have plenty of time to speak. Is that okay?
She's going to talk first, you're next.
Tony, I'm just gonna give them some background first, okay? I'm gonna give them some background first.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, it's the second thing in your meeting packet. Sunset Circle was a development that was completed a few years ago, and one of the, decisions that the planning board made was instead of a, retention wall for slope, the developer could put in a vinyl fence instead in that area. And in the years since it's been put in, there have been issues with the fence. Specifically, one panel in the back has been falling over. And so Mr. George lives at this property, and the fence is on his property. And so it's just, and it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be within the town's right-of-way. But it's measuring 12 to 16 feet off of the edge of the road, which is beyond what we normally accept for a right-of-way.
How long has the fence been there?
The road was accepted in 2018 or 19.
That's when the agreement was made.
And when was the fence put in, Tony?
I would say
It was
maybe 2 months after that, I'm guessing now.
in 2018 or 19?
I can't say for sure. But,
You
let's see,
just take the microphone from,
yeah, I can't say for sure exactly where it was done, but I think it was done in the springtime. So I'm gonna suggest it was probably done in 19.
hold it closer to your mouth.
I'm not positive, but I think it was probably 19.
So Rennie chimed in on this. Rennie wants to just take it down and be done with it? Is that the?
Rennie doesn't believe it is in the right-of-way, and therefore, there's nothing the highway department can do about it because it looks to be on Mr. George's private property. It looks like it was placed on private property.
So you were involved in that, Wally?
Yeah, so, from what I understand, Sunset Circle, by the way, was one of the longest-going subdivisions in the planning with probably no less than 25 revisions, multiple contractors, and a lot of disasters because of that chain along the way. It initially started off by a local developer who did a quick A&R on the left of the drive-in, took the land, did not measure that out properly because of an engineering issue, and the actual line of sight distance was compromised because of that to start. The second thing that was supposed to happen was once the subdivision went in, the access for that particular house was supposed to be moved onto Sunset Circle. You'll see a cut there, but it was never performed. The next thing is, this was supposed to be a 4-lot subdivision with huge retaining walls that was whittled down over time. And then we had the developer issues once this thing was finally approved and took off. Now, the reason for the fence, I believe, was twofold, Tony. It was, for one, because of the retaining wall no longer there, and the distance on the lots. This road was actually shifted more towards the right as you enter onto the street, which compromised your property, is that right?
Initially, it was supposed to be down at the bottom near the slope,
Right.
and they had a problem putting it there. So he brought in some filled part of that slope area, and then he moved to put the fence at the top, which is further into the bank's land. So really, the slope that's on my side of the fence is really the town's land, okay? And what I've been doing is, I've been taking my weed whacker once in a while and go up on the slope and I cut it. They never planted the grass correctly, it's all weeds.
Right, so we got a fence that was placed in the wrong position, but there was 2 reasons for the fence. The first one was because of your crops that you grow down there, and snow and salt being pushed off on the side of the road, because the road had to be shifted to the right, because they no longer had sight distance. So that was the first part, but this was supposed to be within the right-of-way. Now, this is also the same subdivision where the fire hydrant was improperly placed.
I remember that one.
And it actually wound it up in someone's driveway, and they had to remove it and put it in. And also, still missing out here on Sunset, I might add, because it was down there, is the second streetlight, which is at the very end on the left side of the last house where the transformers are. There's supposed to be 2 streetlights there, and that second one was never put in, and it still needs to be put in. So we still have work to do out there.
So, Annie, whose responsibility is the fence? Is that,
Since it's on his,
If it's on private property, it's the private property
regardless of who
owners.
put it there, it's his responsibility because it's
I got a copy of the minutes.
But it wasn't supposed to be.
It wasn't supposed
It
to
was
be.
improperly placed, so
No.
that,
can I see the minutes from the 18th?
it doesn't surprise me from the engineering stuff that we,
Thank you.
and Tony, make sure you're speaking into the microphone, please.
Just, Tony, make sure you're speaking into the microphone.
You know, the only thing that brought this all about, by the way, is because the fence started to fall, okay? And I talked to the road commissioner, and I said to him, hey, you know, the fence is starting to fall, and that's a town's property. And he says, well, I'm gonna go out and measure it. He measured 6 feet from the road, and he says, that's what the town has, and the rest, he said, is yours. I said, no, it's not mine. It's not mine. I said, that was all part of the bank's land. I says, my land starts at the bottom of the slope on the other side of the fence. I says, I've been taking care of that as best I can. What I've been doing is planting flowers on it to hold the ground so that it doesn't, they were worried
Is that
about
the
the fact
decision
that
or
they
no?
didn't meet the slope requirement. That was the big argument that started with the bank all over that area. Finally, we agreed on the fence and all that, okay. But my opinion, the people who put the fence in were not fence people. And if you look at the fence from down at an angle,
It should have been.
It's
It
not
does
even
say that
straight.
It was supposed to be on.
and there's a section of it down near the
is
end.
that the decision?
What happened is, when I was watching them put it in, they have to put the 4x4 like so deep in the hole. They hit a boulder in the hole.
Meeting notice.
They couldn't do it. The guy took the 4x4 and cut a portion of it off so that he'd be at the right height, but he hasn't got enough in the ground. So that portion is weak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weak. My son-in-law went there and we put a pipe in trying to hold it,
Yeah, that's true, Stonewall was, yeah.
but I'm not so sure that's good the way it is. And all I'm saying, hey, if something happens to that fence, it's not mine. And the road commissioner's trying to say, well, according to the plans, we got 6 feet. No.
Right, there was supposed to
I
be a nice
says,
stone wall all the way down there to prevent
you've
the
got
snow
all
and
that
everything.
was the bank's land.
To a fence.
And the fact
That's
that
right.
they moved the fence from down where it was gonna go originally to up here, that's still town's land. I'm taking care of it the best I can, but it's getting a little rough, you know? I'm getting up in age, and hey, with me getting on that slope is a little tough, but I'm doing the best I can with it. But all I'm trying to make it understood is that that land, that slope land is really the town's as well as the fence. And he's telling me that the trees they planted on the other side of the fence, he's saying are mine. They're not mine.
No, those are street
He's,
trees.
then
Supposed to be
he's,
street trees, but
I'm saying, look,
that's not,
I never authorized any of that. The town put all that in. What are you telling me, that all of a sudden it's my land? No.
why don't we
So
take,
I just want it straightened out, because
Do some research, bring it up.
Rennie, the highway superintendent, did go out and, we pulled up some Essex County bounds, and Rennie went out there himself and did some measurements and walking. He's not a surveyor.
was just gonna say
Keep
that.
that in mind, but he walked, I think, on, Stanton is the following street. He found
Yep.
the Essex County bound there and did the walks, and it looks as though the fence was placed within private property, because
Yeah, it wasn't,
the,
it wasn't
the,
supposed to be.
yeah, it was placed incorrectly, because it's from the edge of the road. The fence at its closest is 12 feet from the edge of the road, and at its furthest is 16 feet from the edge of the road.
Yeah, but the whole road shifted, and I don't know what the as-built shows, but they were supposed to be originally a stone wall. That
but
was supposed to be
that's
part
not
of the
going in now,
development.
Wally, so
No,
don't
it's
worry
not,
about
but
it.
it,
No, I understand. That was based, we took the Essex County bound measurements, I from the as-built.
So wouldn't the initial plans from the developer show where the placement of these things was supposed to be, and whose
That's supposed to
responsibility
be-
the burden of that upkeep would be?
But if it's not, if it's on private property,
Can
It was
Annie,
placed on-
hold on a minute, Wally, can
Yeah.
Rennie go out there, can Rennie mark in orange one day where it should be, and maybe we can go out and take a look and come to some resolution, you know, and have further discussion on this before we just say, it was placed wrong, it was on your property, you have to
Right.
take care of it. I mean, that's,
oh, no,
I want to see it first.
My intent, or my thoughts on this, because I was here from the beginning with this disaster, and this isn't the only stuff that didn't end up right over here. I mean, at the end of the street on the right-hand side, that was supposed to be tree two when they brought up the water line, but they never retreed that. This was left pretty barren.
And back then, we were still doing peer review engineering.
That's
and,
right.
I mean, I
Right.
don't know why it wasn't caught back then, or why it's in here
Probably
now.
because of the engineering. I mean, remember that this whole thing had a shift, so that started the problem off the bounds, because this house went in, and then everything kicked this way, so.
But
it
my point
wouldn't
would
be
have been
surprising.
but
still-
private property lines wouldn't move. His property
Exactly,
lines
but
wouldn't
the
Right.
road
move.
would
Right,
still
exactly.
move and encroach on property, but my question back then, why, why is it coming in here in 2022 when it should have been caught?
When the road was
When the road was being
accepted.
Yeah.
accepted, or the road was going in.
On the as-built,
And if we
whereas,
have a
yeah,
review
look at the
engineer.
fence on it.
And, if they're making weekly site site why didn't they catch it then?
Right. I mean, the plot lines are the plot lines, right?
Camet.
This was Camet back then?
I'm, from the files I've looked through, I'm pretty certain it's Camet.
Did he review the as-built?
He had
I
to.
don't know if,
I,
don't know.
one second.
And what, what skin in the game does he have? Camet is a review engineer.
It's also less than 5 years old and already fallen down.
That's right.
yeah.
Oh, right.
It goes a little bit beyond that, so I think
Yeah.
if Rennie can paint some lines out there, just let us know, we could all go out there on our own and then.
Right, exactly. At the end of the day, plot line's a plot line, right? And
Exactly.
if it shouldn't be on his plot, then it shouldn't be his burden to upkeep, right? So.
Right.
Right, this goes back to
Yeah.
the town to come up with a
Right.
solution.
I guess if you look at one document that the town has that shows the layout of the land there, and it shows from the road, and it's got marked 6 feet, I think that's a standard that they use wherever they are, that they're responsible for like 6 feet.
Some are 10, some are 2, it depends on the survey and, what's accepted or not. But I would say, for this point, Tony, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna have the road agent go out there, mark the lines where it should have been. We're gonna have some, discussion amongst us to find out, some research to find out maybe if there's anybody on the hook. We can't just say, okay, we're gonna take care of it right now without doing a little bit of due diligence on our part as well.
really after is that if something happens to the fence, that it's not mine. Something happens to those trees and back there, they're not mine. And I'm saying, I don't know if the town document where it, when they inherited that land from the bank, they took everything the bank had. I mean, he's saying, no, we just take 6 feet, then you got the rest. No.
Let us do a little bit of research out there, and then we can have you back for discussion. Would that be okay? We can't make any decisions on that tonight
Bring you-
without seeing for ourselves.
Bring you back at the next meeting, Tony?
Right now, there's not a problem with the fence. Again,
Well, we understand,
I'm
yeah.
just under the basis here that if something does happen, I don't want them saying, hey, that's your fence, you gotta fix it. I just want it on record that that's not my fence, and that slope land is not mine. I'm planting flowers there every year. On one side of the fence, I put these little fences up because they didn't put it close enough to the ground, and everything was blowing through that fence and coming into me. So I finally had to buy these fences up Home Depot and put them at the bottom all the way along to block it. I did that, but to tell me that the fence is mine, I don't have a way of fixing that.
We're gonna go out and we're gonna look at it, and then we'll have you in at the next meeting. How is that? Fair?
We're gonna bring you back.
Investigate. We're gonna investigate further.
We're gonna keep looking into it, Tony.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're gonna go out. We're gonna take a look at it in person,
Great,
and then we're gonna have you back at the next meeting. Is that good?
sounds super.
Great.
All right?
I mean, do you want me there so that if
No, it's
you have
okay.
any
We can-
questions?
We can figure it out from the
You know what's-
documents.
You know what's helping that fence right now, between you and I, that section that's bad, is there's a couple of trees that are leaning on it, which is good, that's holding it. But I'm still afraid that the way that thing was leaning, and they came out once to fix it. Did they fix it right? No. You know what they did? They put some cement around the top. But there's not enough of that 4x4 in the ground on that section. It's just that one section near the end, not the end section, the second one in. When you look at it, there's a pipe on one side that Len drove into the ground to try to hold it up. You know, I held the fence up while he drove that in, and hopefully we're right, but, hey, we tried our best.
Okay.
And I,
Okay.
We'll take a
do
look.
what you said.
and I will let the board know, Rennie said if this fence does end up somehow being the town's, the town does not maintain fences. They maintain security fences. They do not maintain beautification fences. So if it falls down, Rennie is more so inclined to just tear it out. That's the other,
Yeah.
that's the other option.
The slope part, remember, is still the town's land.
We do not think so.
We need to look at that because one
Yeah,
of the
We
things
can mark that
that,
up and take a look at it.
Yeah, we can mark that up as well, as Chris said.
because one of the things that I remember that Bob
Change is the
Arakalian
plan.
had a trouble
It
with
shows they only have 6 feet.
was when they were coming down through for the utilities,
We're gonna look at that.
that
All right.
he
All right,
he thought the
thank you.
center line of the road was
Thanks,
way
Tony.
off,
You're
which
all set with
explains
this?
if you go
Yeah.
from the edge of the road and measure over.
But we're not measuring from Sunset Circle.
That
We're not using the,
surprised me. Things are off.
but we're not using that information. We're using deed bounds
Yeah.
and from Staunton Street? Is that the?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying about where that was, but if you look through the other 25 plans on this before one got finalized, this whole thing got shifted over. Okay, regardless of where the bounds lie, okay, if someone measured off something else and that fence did end up in the wrong spot, but we'll take a look and see where it is. But it's not supposed to be on his property,
No.
and I was there for all the hearings.
Tuesday?
No,
No.
Tuesday after.
I won't be here.
That's all right.
If
We
the
can
board
still
wants
talk.
to.
We can still talk.
Yeah, I won't be here either.
Really?
Okay, I'll let you know if we schedule a meeting for then. It might not be then. I'll let you know.
Where you going?
Iceland.
Yep.
Iceland?
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Okay.
does the peer review engineer have any skin in the game for something
I
like
don't
that?
think they're not in business anymore, but anyway,
Really?
yeah.
I mean,
but-
Andy, one thing I'd like to know too is that if there was an initial repair done to the fence at some level? If we can find out who did that repair, and that could be admission of responsibility, to be honest?
Yeah,
And he's gotta have insurance
Is
to
it
cover
needed?
anything that he's had.
Is the fence
Was that-
needed?
Can't it?
no.
The fence was put up, you get, I'll talk to you guys if you want to detail about this thing.
But if it's not needed, it can be taken
You know
down.
what, let's
At the end
wait
of
for
the day,
him to
right?
be, you know, what I
Yeah.
mean, he's not present for the discussion, so
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
just move on and,
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll tell you the history of that later,
all right.
the whole subdivision. Anyway, okay, so next up,
It's Billis Way. We've got a TEC report.
yeah.
Yeah, so you guys have a few things in here on Billis Way. So there's a Form G release form for a bond reduction. There is a letter from TEC regarding the bond reduction, a letter from Millennium Engineering stating that they have been contracted to work on the as-built for Billis Way. I've been in contact with Millennium about the as-built for a couple months now. And then additionally, a letter from Al Couillard with photos of the site to Pete with TEC, addressing a couple of TEC's concerns about seed and loom. Al has also sent me drafts for the easement for a portion of the sidewalk, as well as a draft deed for parcels A and B that will be deeded to the town when the town does and goes to accept the roadway.
So now's the time to loom and seed. We got, oh, it is? Okay, even better.
That's what I sent you the pictures for. TEC sent this the 16th, but they must have been out.
They weren't.
Oh, you
we
need the
mic,
microphone?
Al. You need
Al?
the mic.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah.
How about the shade trees? Is something going on with 20 out of 36 have been planted? With
Yeah,
propo-
it's the same thing as the last time I walked Rennie and I went up and down the street with a 100-foot tape, and we marked off everywhere the trees should be, and he said that's the number, and it's fine, and so that's what I put in.
But that wasn't the plan. Rennie doesn't have any,
Look at the plan, that plan says at the builder's discretion for the location and amount of trees.
okay.
These the shade trees?
Shade
Shade
trees.
trees.
Yeah, it's usually 2 trees per lot. How many did you
It
put
is,
in?
each lot has roughly 2 trees. The guy, there's one that blue house that's set way in the back.
Yeah,
He's got driveways and walls there, and then because we eliminated the sidewalk on the left-hand side, that sidewalk was supposed to go all the way around the cul-de-sac, would never slope on the wall. We came here, you guys said, yeah, it's a minor modification, so that, wiped out a bunch of frontage. I can't put any on that slope. There's no sidewalk there, no right-of-way. It's just slope in the cemetery, so that ate up, a bunch of the, whatever the number was that was supposed to.
so remind me again, how many house lots here?
9.
So it's 9, so
It's 18
so it's
trees.
18 trees. Do you have
Yeah.
18 trees?
It's got 20.
20?
20.
What are the other 2 trees?
Are they
Two-
placed on the lawns of the?
They're right
or
here.
You know, to put them in
No.
the planning strip, did you?
They should be outside of the right-of-way.
We're outside of the right-of-way,
Yeah,
every one of them.
okay. So they're basically in the lawn.
Yeah, they're in the front.
Yeah,
people's
that's what I
front.
said. That's good, yeah. Okay, so that meets that requirement. Did anybody complain about that? That, I don't see it here.
Negotiating back and forth, yeah.
Oh, you mean a placement? That's fine, as long as it's on the
Yeah,
lot.
people call, I don't want it there, I want it on the plan.
It's always the way.
You know what we used to do, and, actually, we still do it, is before you go put those out there, you hand the residents a couple of stakes, and you say, put it where you want it.
Well, I didn't want to give them that much rope, but I marked them all out, and most people were fine with it. A couple
Yeah.
of people wanted.
Yeah, because some people have another plan that you don't know about, so that worked out pretty good, so keep that in mind for
Yeah.
next time. But, yeah, we usually just have hey, trees are coming, and put them where you want them, here they go.
So
So it looks like TEC has concerns over the loam and the seed,
he said he's taking care of it.
Yeah.
so that's done.
Got the pictures right there.
All right, and then on the shade trees,
So,
so
I see that you say, I hear you say it's done, but TEC's report is saying it's not adequate,
TEC's
right?
report was 16.
The 16th
You got
well,
pictures
from
We got-
today?
Exactly, and Chris was at the floor for a second here, so.
I was gonna say, my other thing was gonna be on the shade trees, it says 20 to 36 proposed. If there was only intent to do 20, why would we propose be 36?
Normally, in-
Yeah, just what you were talking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
something you can get 36 on a plan without knowing.
Well, there's a difference between the shade trees and the buffer trees, and the buffer trees, we don't know yet till we finish that out. So the shade trees are just the street trees that are going in. And then there's
There
a
were
separate
buffer,
one.
there were buffer trees that were gonna be placed in the right of way, if I remember correctly, right? On the
Say it, I didn't catch
shade-
that.
Huh?
I didn't catch what you said.
There were shade trees, not shade trees, there were gonna be buffer trees on that, the access to the cemetery.
Well, I put the.
Wasn't there, like,
access to the cemetery in the gate and
Yeah.
320 feet of fence up, and that's basically, we went through the woods.
I see that.
I don't know where I put them.
Yeah, if you were to have planted a tree there, it would have just gotten swallowed by the trees that were already there.
Can't plant trees under trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the buffer trees are usually the last thing.
Yeah, but where are they gonna put the buffer trees?
Okay, so the purpose for the buffer trees, okay, they're coming in, is that, based upon the proposed lot, and sometimes, you know, you gotta put a septic in or something like that, okay, things move around, some trees come down, so at the end, we go back in and take a look, and sometimes you have to throw a couple of buffer trees.
The buffer trees
Trees.
were supposed to be on on that cul-de-sac, on the left-hand side, that's where the buffer trees were supposed to
Well, the
go.
buffer trees are through the entire subdivision. I don't know, if these might be specific.
Those are street trees, right?
No,
Al,
on
just make sure
every
you're using
single
a-
I don't
subdivision,
know what
buffer
buffer trees
trees.
are. I don't know what
Alright,
you're
so
talking about.
I don't
But anyway,
think,
you may not need them.
Right.
It doesn't seem like I do, that's what I'm
I
saying.
drove through, I don't think there's any call. If you were gonna put some, it would be on the slope. They're not gonna last on the slope. He's got the fence that buffers the cemetery, and I think the cemetery commission was happy when that was done, right?
Cemetery has already said they're gonna maintain that fence in perpetuity.
Okay, so,
Was that what kind of fence did you end up putting up?
a white
It's a
vinyl
6-foot
fence?
white vinyl fence,
Oh, yeah,
Right
okay.
there.
and then they went,
Saying that.
Yeah, I saw that, but I wasn't sure what that was.
in the last 4
Okay.
years.
I don't know.
It doesn't look.
So Al, on that, lumen seed, is this new lumen seed in between the road and the
The planning strip?
sidewalk?
well, you know, it was a long time in between, so a lot of crabgrass came in because of the drought. So we put the top coat on the sidewalk on, we roughed everything up, we put extra loom on, and then we seeded it.
Well,
But
well,
the-
well, I mean, the TEC report's from the 16th, and your picture's from the 20th, and you said between the 16th and the 20th, new stuff was put in.
Yeah,
That's what you just said.
yeah, you can see it.
Well, no, I see burnt out grass and,
Well, there's hydroseed in there, look at the one for the cul-de-sac. The color's green. If you went out there, maybe, you know, my camera's not right, but if you go out there in green, you can see it's.
yeah, I don't see any cul-de-sac pictures.
I see that's.
Cul-de-sac
Yeah,
pictures.
I see the hillside, which is,
Yeah.
That's
the hillside
seeded.
of the cul-de-sac. There was a little bit of runoff, so we filled that with loam and we
That's
hydroseeded
seeded.
that at the same time.
yeah, okay.
See that?
Mm-hmm,
Let's-
yeah.
Let's spill out.
Mm-hmm,
You know, I'm,
all right.
we're still gonna hold almost 20,000.
Well, that loom and hydroseed is 10, so it's done.
If the planning board's, I mean, if the planning board is comfortable with the amount of trees that are there right now, that's 4,000. TEC marked that as 4,000.
All right, I'm gonna float an idea, and see if this is amendable with the board. We reduce the reduction, as TEC says, is 80,535. We'll leave the 19,465, and I haven't had time to go down there, Al. I'll go down there this week. And, we
Yeah,
won't
10
have-
of that's the as-built, so.
Right, there's still an as-built, so there's,
As was only 5, I think, right?
so
I don't know what they
$20,000
cost,
is really nothing,
That's
it's,
fine, I gotta hand in the as-built in a few weeks, so that's fine.
so, when you hand in the as-built,
Submit another Form G.
right, and then we'll just release it all. Is that amendable to you?
Yeah.
Is that amendable to the board?
Yeah, will you have the acceptance letter too, going into the town at that time with the as-built to release the fee?
As-built acceptance, I've already got all the.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of the information.
Okay. Have you floated it by the road commissioner to throw it on the warrant? Does the language look right?
We haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, we're not having a special town meeting, so this isn't gonna happen until the spring.
Yeah,
Right.
just so somebody, well, if you turn it in now and it's already.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we have plenty of time to get it on there, but we haven't gotten all the information.
You're
we
almost
need
there.
yet. Yeah.
Okay,
It's a long road.
okay.
It's over 750 feet, isn't it?
So you want a motion to release and hold 19,465? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, so let's make it a motion. You want to fly that motion?
Yes. Fly the motion to, on Billis Way, bring the reduction bond down to hold 19,465 for last items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, done.
Yep.
You know that last guy here, the fence? That's why, as soon as you guys can, I know it's a small community and everything, but we need a town engineer desperately here. We wouldn't have to worry about all this, you guys would have a guy that's been here for 10 years, you know exactly what Walter knows, where that fence is and what. You don't have to go and get it.
The only thing is you gotta be able to fund it.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
gotta pay for town
Yeah.
engineer, yeah.
Well, I'm doing my job, trying to raise taxes for you guys.
We appreciate that.
And
Andy, get that on the docket, will you?
we got you on camera,
Thank you.
Ralph.
You too.
You too, thanks. All right, next up, A&R, 166 Main Street. Mr. Costa, I see you're here.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Been a long time.
And you are here for,
I'm pinch hitting on the A&R because Jay is on the zoning board of appeals now in the town of
for this lot?
Georgetown.
Oh, in Georgetown?
Yeah, so
Wait a minute, say that again?
he's on the ZBA in Georgetown.
He is?
He is.
Good for him. Okay.
So he had a conflict tonight, but I have his Form A and his
Oh,
check.
beautiful, thank you.
It got stamped in today, I understand.
Yep, I was here.
So are you here to discuss this plan so we can figure out what it is?
I'm happy to, yeah. It looks like you have copies, I have copies too, but I mean, maybe I can just
Yeah,
point to
they're-
yours.
They all have copies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, were those stamped when he brought those by, or were they
No. Oh, this
stamped
is-
but not signed? So I have
This
the
is
signed
the
version.
one he just emailed me that I just printed out.
Oh,
a
okay,
few
that's
of.
fine. So
Yeah.
I've got the Mylar and I've got
Yeah.
Yeah.
signed version.
I would recommend that. Actually, might even recommend.
I'll let you look at
send this
that.
out for review.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate it. So, and maybe what I'll do is
Do one A&R.
I'll turn this around so
I don't know
I'm
if we
doing
have
it
to
backwards.
stand.
But
Oh, yeah. Okay, so explain to us what you got here and how you came up with this.
sure. So we've got 3-lot A&R. Really only 2 buildable lots. The third lot is a non-buildable lot. Annie may be able to provide some context. I think that's your name, right? I'm Adam, but we haven't met before.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. But Jay told me that he had some conversations with you. I know that he's had conversations with Sam as well, as he was putting this plan together with the assistance of Bill Holt. So there's 2 buildable lots that are proposed, Lot 17A and Lot 17B. This is a bit more confusing than a traditional A&R, only in the sense that we've got a zoning boundary that cuts through the site. You can see business, and the R2 boundary is in red. So the property is partly in the business district and partly in the residential R2 district. The parcel 17C is the lot that I referenced before. You can see the notation on the plan that it's not proposed to be a building lot. I know that there was some discussion that occurred a while back with the chair of the Conservation Commission about potential conveyance. Jay tells me that in more recent conversations, the town has said they're not interested in acquiring it, so that's fine. It's not a buildable parcel, so it's not going to get developed. If the town wanted it, we'd be willing to gift it to the town. If the town doesn't want it, we won't. Taxes won't be much on it because it's going to be a non-buildable lot. 17A and 17B will be buildable. 17A has its frontage on Balch Avenue. 17B has its frontage on Main Street. You can see proposed locations of houses meeting applicable setback requirements. All of the development will occur within the business district, so the business zoning requirements are what apply. We have a zoning table at the top that shows the requirements for both districts, but again, it is the B2 requirements that are applicable to the 2 lots that will ultimately be developed, because there will be no development on parcel 17C. The only thing that makes this sort of funky, and again, I guess I'll provide you a little bit of background because Jay provided it to me. Obviously, lot 17B is somewhat awkwardly shaped because you've got this contiguous buildable area closest to Main Street, and then you've got this long sort of leg. There was a proposal earlier on, and I don't know whether this had been discussed with Annie at all or not, to potentially, again, it wouldn't have made it necessarily a square or rectangular lot, but rather than carry lot 17B as far out into parcel 17C as it is, to sort of get it past 17A's boundary and then cut it back toward Balch Avenue. So there'd be some frontage on Balch Avenue, not for purposes of gaining frontage because we don't need it, not for access because you'd have to cross the stream for access, so that wouldn't be realistic, but just to not have this leg jutting out into parcel 17C. My understanding was that there was some concern that that could potentially be used for access, even though it shouldn't be. Somebody provides a makeshift crossing of the brook, and suddenly they're gaining access to the back of the lot from Balch Avenue. And so the request of staff was, don't do that. Just continue it straight out in the location as it's shown here, without creating any additional frontage or access off of Balch Avenue. So that's why it's structured the way that it is. Trying to think whether there's anything else I need
So
to.
the purpose of this rat tail, which is what that is called engineering-wise,
Yes.
is for what?
Lot area.
Okay, so, now there is a regulation that states that the back of the lot can narrow no less than 80% of the frontage, which is 120 feet wide, and this is 42 feet at the widest
they
point
took
of the
it out.
bottom.
That was
It was taken out.
eliminated when the circle went in.
Circle's always been in.
No, but they eliminated that back lot, that you can't touch. Remember, we had that, I remember as a builder.
Yeah,
Coming on the day before, we had a closing.
yeah.
And I remember you explaining it to me that you can't put your hands out and touch two lots. And that was eliminated, the lot size and the,
So then so 3035, which was what that regulation was the CBA calculation and the contiguous buildable circle, and the lot cannot narrow any less than 80% of the frontage required, as far as I know, still stands, and this is why
No,
we
it's
did it.
gone.
So, okay, so,
It's gone.
we're gonna make a vote to put that right back in, because this is why, this is exactly why, this is what we call an ND1 special right here, okay?
yeah, but it's
And-
still not, it's not buildable. It's not usable.
Well, that's not the point. See, so it makes the lot, this lot as we see it, I don't know why this is designed the way it is. So that's up between you and
He didn't design it.
you representing, okay, and
He has to answer for it.
your engineer.
Right.
But from a quick look, I think the design could have been better, but I do have other questions besides the rat tail, okay?
So I can tell you, at least to answer that question as to why it's designed the way that it is, it's designed to hit the 20,000 square foot in terms of lot area. My understanding was always, and you know the history better than I do, that the circle came in and that other provision, the 80%. Many communities have historically had this 80% lot frontage lot with the requirement to avoid circumstances like this. Many have adopted the circle in lieu of that because it provides a contiguous area. I didn't realize that you've always had the circle, and you had the circle in addition to the provision concerning the narrowing of lot width.
Okay, I'm gonna explain this to you and the board, and this is an education process, okay?
That was the exact lot that I had.
That's it. Okay, so, this lot was specifically designed in the town of Groveland, okay, back when the zoning change came back in the 60s, 70s, I think it was, when it jumped in the RB district to the RA.
You're dating yourself.
I am, but actually, it happened before me, I was only 5. So anyway, when this occurred, so when you had the skipped ownership, protecting all the lots before the zoning change, that's what happened. So anyway, so this originally was a 30,000 square foot lot, okay, and then the zoning jumped to 1 acre, so that was it. However, at the back of this lot, which this lot still exists today in town, okay, and you know where
On
it
Center
is.
Street, yes.
No, not on Center Street.
And the frontage is the
It's right
100
off of King Street.
The 150 is the frontage on the triangle?
And guess what runs right across this sucker? Okay. Can you say Seabrook? Anyway, so standing in there, so this particular lot, okay, when you went into the back, literally in the backyard, he got it right. Okay, when you went like this, you were in 3 people's yards. So we came up with a rule that said, there were 2 reasons for it. The circle is separate than the 80% rule. So we said, if the frontage is 120 feet, this back section here is not gonna go any smaller than 80% of the frontage required. And the reason is for usable space, because nobody can do anything with that, okay. And that's what we thought. If you're paying top dollar at the time, and you probably still are, if you're gonna blow $600,000 on a brand-new house, but you can't use 5,000 square feet or more of your property, because what are you gonna do? You can't put anything in there, okay? And it's
It
a
doesn't
long way
apply
for
to
a
this,
shed.
though. I mean, we can talk about that later, but it's
Right,
not
but here's the
applicable here.
history. So that's why this was changed. And this was changed, I'm gonna say in 1996, that came in. The circle was a different problem, because as you come into the side setbacks here, okay, on over here, we had another problem. So what they were doing is they were narrowing the lot down, so the lot was a lot narrower, okay? And then you were right up against in here, and you had no room on the sides to put in a shed or a garage or anything else. So then we enacted the circle rule that said, your circle goes in, okay, and it has to be outside here. And we put this circle in for a reason. The reason was you can put anything you want in this circle in the CBA area, contiguous buildable area. You can put a pool, you can put a garage and a shed, and you don't need to come into the town and get a waiver for anything.
Right.
Or a zoning reg. So that's why the circle was put in. These two things are completely separate. Okay, so that's why that went in. And then somehow this circle, okay, has nothing to do with you guys.
Yep.
Somehow this circle got placed, or the regulation was removed not to include it within the setback. So now we're back to square one. So both of those rules we're gonna throw on the agenda,
And
and
again,
we're gonna discuss that
another
again.
lot is because you could have a long rectangular lot that's 120 feet deep.
Right.
And 330 feet long that meets the regs, but the circle doesn't comply. So that's why that one, that's why that went by the wayside.
So, well, there was
that's
two,
why they
there
did
was
the
two
80
different reasons
80%.
for it. So, and this was Reg 3035, and why we put it into place. And I'm sorry that that's not your problem, that the town mistakenly threw that out.
right,
But
let's-
we'll see.
let's-
So let's go back to
let's
this.
stay
But
on
that's
course
why
here.
it was in place.
Okay, but I didn't know
And
that
we're
history,
gonna
so-
educate everybody. So this here, from a planning standpoint, which is not your bag, is the engineer. I think this plan can be designed a little bit better. And can you tell me where the driveway is on 17B?
Yeah, is it,
Is it the rear
Because it
prop
says
drive
it's
is
right
it
here?
up, is it up
Is
here
it
on
a
the
new one?
left-hand
Is it an
side?
old one?
Oh, on
I see
7
this one.
I
on
think,
the main street?
I think the intention was to continue to use the existing paved drive, which they did, which is why because you can see there's a proposed
Yeah,
drive shown for,
Yeah, prop drive
off
right
of
here.
Belch Avenue,
Right, right, so
Avenue for lot
I see
17A.
that one. So
Correct.
is this the
The
existing one?
the existing paved,
Okay,
right,
and there's nothing on this property now, so these are two new.
correct.
Okay, and how can it be an existing driveway if there's no house there now?
I don't believe there's any residents on the site right now, no.
it's-
The empty lot
it's the
that
empty lot.
has the for sale, massive
Yeah, it
for
has-
sale
it has the,
sign on it.
heavy equipment in
across
there
from
for
Bill's-
sale.
Yeah.
Okay, so
right across
there's a
from where
driveway in
Bellis
there
is.
There's a
now?
curb cut.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
curb.
never mind the curb cut. Where's the driveway?
There's pavement on
There's
the,
pavement, yeah.
it's a driveway to nothing, because there's no.
Yeah, there is
So-
nothing there.
That's gonna be a little bit cleared up.
Yep.
I think we need to go take a look at this.
This was just given us today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I wanna have some time. I know already we got 21 days, so if it's, again, amenable to you, the next meeting on the 4th. Is it the 4th, Annie?
Yep. I-
You won't be here, we know.
Nope.
Yeah,
So,
assuming you take a look at it and everything.
yeah, I think,
Fourth is what, 2 weeks from tonight?
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
run a couple things through Sam.
Sure.
Sam has already looked at this, and so have I. We've had it for a week, and
Okay.
it fits the regulations. We sent this to town council as well. It fits the frontage, it fits the,
Does it
Area.
fit the spirit and intent of zoning?
it's an A and R lot.
An A&R still has to fit the spirit and intent of zoning.
No, it doesn't. It just has to be frontage
Area and
and
frontage
area.
is the two things that we look at.
I looked through the A and R handbook. Like I said, we brought it to town council.
Motion to move this item for 2 weeks, the next meeting.
You all right with that?
I mean, if the board wants to see it, I'm not gonna deny you the chance to see
This
it.
is the, this is the first I'm seeing of this.
Right, so I get that. I mean, it sounds like it's been vetted with building.
It has,
commissioner
but I
and with
just wanna-
council, But I get that, so,
Hasn't with us,
I get it, I get it.
so,
Yeah, so
yeah, I flew the motion.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Delay for 2 weeks?
Yeah, just to the next
I
meeting.
just wanna look, yeah, I just wanna take
Go
a
out
look
there,
at it.
take a look.
I know, yeah, it's probably gonna fly, but I just wanna have a little time.
Okay.
And we're not gonna
Thank you.
redesign the lot, because I'm
No,
not
we're
an
not.
engineer, neither are
That's-
you, so.
That's up to them. I can suggest a few things right away, though.
No, but it meets the regs.
Yeah, I just,
I'm gonna leave the Mylar and the couple of signed copies.
All right,
with
thank you.
Annie if I could.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you,
perfect.
Adam.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Now to the pile.
All right, next. Meeting minutes, approval of the July 12th, 2022 meeting minutes.
motion approved.
So motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Town planner update?
We moved offices. We're in the new office, so I am now in the old highway office.
So that's not our office anymore over there?
No,
That
but we
is
did
now
find
the
your name
high-
all over the back walls.
Yeah, we
No.
sure. I found an old Sorensen electric hat behind the flat files.
There's some curious markings on the merch.
Doing at the merch, as my kids say. Way to go. 30 years it's
We
been
might
there.
just have a conversation
Yeah.
later.
Something about a bill for repainting.
Well, but yes, so want to say thank you to the Rennie, the highway superintendent, the light department, and Rebecca. They helped a lot with the move, so thank you to them, because I definitely couldn't have done it by myself. As far as projects go, 106 King Street is moving along really well. The Katy Lane subdivision, they're hoping to be complete with the roadway by the beginning of November, so that's going really well.
Has anybody been down there?
Yeah, I went by and I noticed, for whatever reason, there's a lot of like 6 to 8 inch riprap all along.
That is the
That is-
private residence
That's
of
correct.
106 King Street, so I don't,
I'll tell you
that
what,
has nothing
it'll
to do.
stabilize that hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not part of the project, that was just
So-
that
Well,
house there.
actually, that house is part of the project.
Not
No,
anymore,
it's
that was an
already
A and
done.
R lot.
It's
Yeah, yeah, it
But-
is, but it was cut off as part of the.
Yeah,
that
but
was-
there's nothing we can do about it.
So I did take a trip down there.
People have complained to me about it.
I took a trip down there. They are doing erosion control. I saw Kevin Cuniff with his skid steer and doing dust control down there. They got it pretty well cut. It's under well, it looks good. It looks good.
I saw the grading today with the stakes, so,
So, yeah.
I know, yeah. All right,
Thank you. An update on the cell tower behind us.
yeah.
I have been working with Lieutenant Brian Belfiore with the fire department on getting that accomplished. So he's been working with AT&T and T-Mobile on removing the gas generators down there. So that's making good progress. Other projects, 38 Benjamin Street has started site work on that house down there. That's going well. 142 King Street, they have laid down the conduit for utilities, so they're moving along.
That didn't look too tough either.
No,
It
No,
looked-
look-
looked good.
There's
big
some,
driveway.
there's some grading issues in the back with the electric conduit has to be, I believe, 4 feet
Correct.
underneath, and they're having some issues in one area, but they are well aware that they have to be within a 10% slope. So they're working on rectifying that issue, but I'm in contact.
two ways to do that.
Hammer.
Cement it or-
They were out there with a hammer. I've been in touch with Kevin Snow throughout the like to make sure everyone's okay.
Bigger hammer, if they have a problem.
As far as our comprehensive master plan, that's going really well. We were there on Groveland Day with our consultants. We have our second survey out. It's on the town website. It's a bunch of places. So we're looking to solicit more community more community comments on that. The planning board, you should expect to see draft language probably in November. I don't think we would probably do a full public hearing until December, I would think, to start doing the formal process, but it's going well. It's been a while since we last met, so I'm trying to catch up on.
Was there any feedback on the sidewalks yet for town community input and parks?
Yeah, we've had a ton of on park information and recreation, passive and active.
Yep.
Not a ton on sidewalks. I mean, it's something we talk about as far as connectivity and everything, but not a ton. But it is something we've spoken about. As far as large-scale projects, speaking of sidewalks, the Route 97, finishing that. That'll be starting soon. The community trail is looking to be complete at the end of November. What else? I'm trying to think. There's a lot of stuff going on in town, but everything is moved along well.
So on Benjamin, did they get rid of the knotweed?
we are working with that with the Conservation Commission. We have a management plan in place.
That
That-
means no, they didn't get rid of it yet.
No, we do have a plan. Once it flowers, they're cutting it and spraying it with herbicide that is safe to use around aquatic features, so, because it's so close to Johnson's Pond. Myself and Mike Dempsey, the Conservation Commission chairman, went out to the site with the DeHulus and Greg Hockmuth, a wetland scientist.
I know Greg, he's been around for a while.
Yeah, and we went out with him and we spoke with the DeHulus, Greg, and kind of put a plan together for it. So the Conservation Commission accepted the plan, the DeHulus accepted the plan, so that is being worked out. And then the lot, the actual building portion of the lot, the knotweed that was there, they cleared, they cut that all down and cleared it out, which was, again, part of the plan. So that's, yeah, they are working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all she wrote.
Alright.
I can't think of anything else.
Can I propose something?
Absolutely.
An agenda item?
Sure.
For whenever we can squid it in? We want to discuss this, and let's bring in,
Yes, I already, yeah.
okay? Because it's hard to do it here, and we need input from the building inspector, so he understands why this was put in place, but, since we have a perfect example in front of us, this is why. And this is not the first time we've seen this, and that's why that was put in, so there might have just been a little bit of misunderstanding as to why that was put in place in the 90s, and maybe there's a better way to do the same thing, and we'll just have a.
Maybe there's a better way,
discussion.
I don't see, much of a problem with that as much as I see a problem with this.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's
Yeah,
the
I
thing
think
here.
odd cut lots are just in a future problems waiting to happen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why we took this out. But you see this here? This little point here that went back there that you're looking at? This went for 50 feet. That's why. So it narrowed all the way down and then finally came to an
So
absolute
again, I have that
point.
one on Center Street, and you know what? And that ranch house was there before we tore it down, was there,
Yeah.
God knows, since probably 1940.
Pre-existing non-conformance.
So it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I don't still see the problem with something that was, pre-existing,
No, I don't either.
opposed to something that comes
Right.
in new.
Well, that's why we
Right,
wrote
you know.
this.
Right.
Because-
Something grandfathered in is one thing, but
Right.
yeah.
Because these were deliberate, and actually, in the A&R handbook, there's a very good case on this. It's called the Nantucket case, if you take a look at it. The way
Oh,
that they did
yeah.
it with all the rat tails, if you study the Nantucket case, and that's exactly what that's where that term came from, the rat
It
tail.
is, but that's about access.
That was-
That's about access to the
access that was
site,
coming
because it
in.
narrows down to
Right,
7
that was
feet,
the
because that's the
subdivision.
driveway.
That was the subdivision. But here we have, in my humble opinion, at the moment of 30 years on this board and seeing what comes in, this is a total violation of the spirit and intent of zoning. It's not to make this thing in here just so you can fit it in here, okay? I see the land back here, I understand the area here, we have a CBA issue, okay? But this is not a very good design to make this meet the
I
regulation
don't think this
for
is up
this
for
particular
discussion right
home.
now on this piece, but if somebody could find something in the regs that,
We
Well, we'll
don't
take it-
have anything in our regulations.
Well, we did.
I
and there
know,
was
no,
a
I know
reason
we
for it.
did.
So-
I remember seeing decisions about it,
and-
but we don't have it
And
anymore.
if we can find that little piece, that's, not necessary, but eventually it will be, when we go back to the zoning at the town meeting to explain why it was
It can't
in,
be buildable
and
in
what
sewer.
what was the rationale for pulling it out, and now we're gonna use examples as to why
that
we're
lost
putting it back in. But we saw more than one of these lots before come in
They
the
offered it
door,
to
and the
the
reason
town.
is because they're not making any more land in Groveland,
tax
so they're getting
implication.
harder to develop.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but this is, in my opinion, a violation of the spirit and intent. Okay, to meet 20,000 square feet, I'm sure that there's another way to do that in here.
maybe a conservation restriction.
Just because,
well,
with the contiguous buildable area, I think it
Well, the
doesn't need it, but
Then perhaps a different design should come to, light.
like Adam said, I saw another design and it was worse than this.
So, you know what, I mean, on the back, you can probably take a conservation restriction on it.
No,
Why?
we don't want the land. The town, I've spoken with our town administrator, I've spoken with our conservation commissioner, we don't
If
want
he
this
holds the
land.
land and puts it in CR, if he keeps the parcel and puts it in conservation restriction,
I'm not seeing.
Someone
this-
has to hold the conservation restriction, though.
He has to pay for the conservation restriction.
Yes, but
And
he
he has
has-
to pay taxes on the conservation restriction.
But he would have to find someone to hold it. And I don't know if like an Essex County Greenbelt would want something like
No.
this.
The town could hold it, but he could keep it.
No, I don't
The
know. if
Greenbelt
the
isn't gonna
town would
want it,
hold
it's too small.
Point of
It's
order?
gonna take it's gonna
Can
take a
we,
year.
we don't have the applicant here, so can
I
we-
know, but it
yeah.
takes a year.
No, can we table that discussion just on that, just for the public meeting record? On that, anything else on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay,
If anyone has any questions about any projects going on, let me know, or if there's anything else.
all right. Motion adjourned?
So motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for watching.